Apple may have accidentally hinted at the upcoming iPhone 17 Air in iOS 26 Beta 2. Mac rumors discovered a new version of the classic clownfish wallpaper with a unique resolution 1260 by 2736. That doesn't match any current iPhone, but it closely aligns with the rumors of the ultra-slim iPhone 17 Air, expected to launch this September. Analyst Minchiko Prus reported this will have a 6.6-inch display, a super thin 5.5mm chassis, and would sit between the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max in size. This resolution would work with a 6.6-inch display, so yeah, this could be our first proper hint at the iPhone 17 Air, and with iOS 26 set to launch alongside the iPhone 17 series in September, the presence of this new wallpaper could be a strong clue that the iPhone 17 Air is real and it's coming very soon. Let's move on to some news regarding interesting design changes. First up, analyst Jeff Pu is claiming the dynamic color might shrink on the iPhone 17 models. According to Jeff Pu, this potential reduction in size is because of Meta Lens technology. This tech allows for a more compact Face ID system by integrating both the transmitter and receiver components. Now, when we first heard rumors about this, it was expected only the Pro models would get the smaller dynamic island, but Jeff believes that this could come to the complete iPhone 17 series. Now, does it sound likely? Personally, I have my doubts. There's been a lot of back and forth on whether we'll see a smaller dynamic island or not. Minchiko, one of the most reliable Apple analysts out there, has said the dynamic island is staying as is for the iPhone 17, and I tend to agree with him as well. Looking ahead, next year's iPhone 18 is when we might see Apple's real front-facing redesign with on-display Face ID, which means there will only be a cut-up for the camera on the front of the device, similar to Android flagships. So yeah, as a result, the iPhone 17 will probably look the same as its predecessors from the front, with the iconic pill-shaped cutout, though I do think there is a possibility they might shrink it just a tiny bit. After all, we saw the same thing happen with the iPhone 13 smaller notch before Apple took the leap with the dynamic island on the iPhone 14 Pro. Still, I don't think that would be a game changer, especially considering the big visual differences are going to come with the back of the device with the new camera modules. Speaking of the display, there's been a lot of talk about ProMotion making its way to the non-Pro iPhones. For those of you who may not be familiar, ProMotion refers to Apple's adaptive refresh rate technology, which automatically adjusts the screen's refresh rate depending on what's on display, making it smoother whilst also being battery efficient. Now, the rumor has been buzzing that the base models are going to get ProMotion this year, but like clockwork, we've already got some leaks throwing cold water on this idea. One leaker from Weibo, Fixed Focus Digital, recently said that whilst the iPhone 17 and 17 may get 120Hz panels, they may not feature variable refresh rate, meaning they'll essentially have a fixed 120Hz panel. That would definitely result in these panels using up more battery life. And that's why I'm skeptical about this. Apple cares a lot about efficiency. They've been using LTPO panels for years now on the Pro models. These panels are the secret sauce behind the adaptive refresh rate technology that's part of ProMotion. LTPO allows a display to refresh anywhere between 1Hz and 120Hz, depending on the content. So I'm not buying that Apple would suddenly use LTPS panels for the base models, which would not support the adaptive refresh rate. It just does not make sense considering Apple does usually prioritize efficiency. Moreover, another leak from Ross Young, a very credible display expert, suggests the LTPO panels will indeed come to the iPhone 17 and 17 Air, and given his history of accurate predictions and the fact the man is the literal display guru, I'm more inclined to trust him on this one. Now, could Apple limit some of the features to the Pro models even if the regular phones get LTPO? Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if the always-on display remains exclusive to the Pro phones. AOD requires a display to be able to go down to 1Hz, and while the regular models could technically handle this with LTPO, Apple might lock the feature behind the Pro models to keep them feeling more premium. As someone with a 14 Pro Max though, I can say I'm not too fussed about this. I turned off AOD a long time ago. It eats up battery life, and I can just glance on my Apple Watch if I need to see the time. So if the base iPhone 17 doesn't get an always-on display, I won't be heartbroken. But you know what would break my heart? If you don't take a minute to click that subscribe button. It's completely free, and you'll get all the latest news about Apple straight to your feeds. So hit that subscribe button now, you don't want to miss anything. Let's now talk about some internal specs that are rumored to be coming to iPhone 17. According to Jeff Pu, the base 17 will keep the A18 and 8GB of RAM, while the iPhone 17 Air will get the A19, and the Pro models will get the A19 Pro. Now, at first glance, this sounds a little odd. there's a chance Apple's trying to maximize profits this year, especially with potential price increases, but it just doesn't make sense for them to hold back the A19 from the base iPhone 17 if they're already going to put it in the iPhone 17 Air. That said, if Apple does stick with the A18 for the regular 17, I wouldn't be disappointed. Apple's chips are already so powerful that yearly upgrades have become a bit more incremental, and the A18 would still be more than enough for most consumers. However, if the A19 does come to the iPhone 17, I won't be shocked, but I don't think it'll make a night and day difference for regular users. On to a bit of good news, the iPhone 17 screen size. If you've been following the leaks, you know the regular 17 is going to 6.3 inches. That's a nice increase from the 6.1 inches we've seen in previous base models. Personally, I was fine with the 6.1 inch size, but I love myself some thinner bezels. The 16 Pro's bezels were absolutely gorgeous, and seeing that trickle down to the iPhone 17 is pretty exciting. What's even more exciting is that the regular iPhone 17 and 17 Pro might look almost identical from the front, both rocking 6.3 inch 120Hz panels, but I wouldn't be surprised if Apple does throw in slightly thicker bezels for the standard 17 to help differentiate it from the Pro. Let's hope they don't, but it's definitely a possibility, but the bezels on this should still be thinner than the iPhone 16. Ross Young has also confirmed the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro displays will be around 6.27 inches, which will be rounded up to 6.3 inches in the marketing material. Meanwhile, the 17 Pro Max should be 6.86 inches, which will be rounded up to 6.9 inches in the official specs. But what about the iPhone 17 Air? Well, that's going to have a 6.55 inch display, which Apple's going to round up to 6.6 inches for marketing purposes. That is a bit smaller than the Pro Max, but it's because they want to prevent this from bending, which honestly makes sense. But now let's talk about prices, because unfortunately we have some bad news on that front. For years we've seen the base Pro phone stay at $999, but this year price hikes are looking more likely. A lot of this has to do with the 20% US tariffs on Chinese imports, which have made it more expensive for Apple to source their components. However, Apple's apparently going to frame the price increases as a result of new features and design changes, rather than blaming the tariffs. Why? Because Apple doesn't want to anger the US government, especially with the ongoing political situation. So what are we looking at price-wise? Worst case scenario, the iPhone 17 could start at $899, with the 17S starting at $999, the 17 Pro at $1099, and the 17 Pro Max at $1299. The question is, can these new models justify the price increase? We of course will get the usual camera and performance upgrades, and the design on the back is at least changing, but these aren't groundbreaking changes, and consumers might not be too thrilled about paying more, especially given how high inflation is right now. And there's more bad news, because there might be a huge issue with the iPhone 17 Air's endurance. Reports from The Information say that only 60 to 70% of users will be able to get through a full day of usage, which is a far cry from the 80 to 90% Apple was aiming. To solve this, Apple's reportedly bringing back the MagSafe power bank from the dead, which was originally released with the iPhone 12 series, but was discontinued in 2023. This new MagSafe power bank will have a USB Type-C port instead of Lightning, but it's still disappointing that a thin phone like the 17 Air might need extra juice to last through a day, and do remember slapping a power bank on this defeats the purpose of an ultra-thin device, because the power bank's going to add additional bulk to the device. At least you won't have to worry about the 17 Air bending in your pockets. Apple's using a mix of aluminium and titanium for the frame, so it should be strong enough if you happen to sit on it. Still though, I'm really worried about the endurance. So what do you think of all this? Is the iPhone 17 series shaping up to be a winner, or are these compromises too much to handle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe for more updates on all things Apple. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.